thank you very much for coming. Enlightened here. This is really a pleasure to welcome our guests. Marta and Amaya, they will introduce themselves more in detail. They are experts coming from the Polytechnic University of Catalonia. Their visit is within the framework of the project, the Horizon funded project, Horizon Europe funded project, agree-JEC, focusing on gender equality plans in widening countries, coordinated by the University of Life Sciences in Hungary. All the details of the project are in a roll-up. Also, there are different social media channels that you may follow, and I suppose that you already know, because this is not the first activity that we are doing within the project. And today, focus is on inclusion of gender diversity in teaching and research, and ladies will be sharing their experience. The whole lecture will be in the theoretical part, and then there will be quite a space for your questions. So thank you very much again for coming. Thank you.
Thank you, Jana, for your presentation. Thank you, everybody, for coming here today. And thank you as well to the people who is online following the talk. Monse, which is from my university. You can go home or do another thing because you already know about the topic. But thank you again, everybody. And as Jana told, I'm going to talk about gender equality and how can we implement this sustainable development goal to our teaching. I don't know if you are teachers or researchers, but I will talk a little with you afterwards. But let me begin with some introduction. I'm sure you know the difference between sex and gender, but just to refresh it, sex is due to biological attributes. So we have each of us have our reproduction organs, and this makes a difference between men and women. Gender is more related to socio-cultural processes. So we have different masculine and feminine behaviors, and this is due to social aspects, cultural aspects, and this is something that marks a difference between man, woman, or whatever you can feel. And this difference is not a problem, but the difference is having inequalities because the sex or the gender. Okay? And how can we reduce or try to avoid this problem with this sustainable development goal, which is called gender equality? Okay, so as you probably know, this is the 5th Sustainable Development Goal, and this gender equality, this goal tries to eliminate all forms of discrimination, promote equal access to education, and ensure therefore an equal participation in decision-making bodies. Okay, I'm going to focus this talk in the gender equality related to teaching. Okay, I'm going to talk a little bit about research, but mainly I will focus on teaching and mainly in agri-food systems, which I think it will be your main field. Okay, so going to the agri-food context, well, today with Barbara, we have a visit to your university, to your campus, and I'm sure that you know some of these data, but I just give you some data here about the agri-food context in the world. We have a lot of people working in this field. In particular, we have that globally we have 56% of women are working in this agri-food sector, and 58% of men are working on this field. So this is a lot of people, and more or less the percentage is balanced. But which is the problem, talking about gender equality, that this balance, which seems to be in the percentage of people working in this field, it's not translated to the owners or the earnings of each people. For example, if we talk about ownership of lands or rights, we have that men have greater ownership of farms or agricultural lands than women in 46 countries. And related to the wage employment, we have that women are earning less money than men. For each euro or each Czech koruna that men earn, we have that women just earn 20% less. Okay? And what about the economical value? We have this data for female farm managers. For example, we have here the Czech Republic. We can see that we have an increase along the years in the economical value of female farm managers, but still, at this country, you are more or less in the 10% of economical value of female farm managers. We at Spain are a bit better, but not really much. Okay. And if we look at the female percentage of regular labor force, we have the distribution among different countries. In fact, these are the different countries that are working in our project, in our SHEF project. And again, if we compare the female percentage of regular labor force, we can see that here it's for female percentage, it's 30%, and it's the same more or less than in Spain. Okay, so there are other countries, for example, Hungary or Slovenia, that are participating in our project, and which are better positioned in these terms than our countries. Okay. More data, talking about percentage of bachelor female students. Well, I have had the opportunity today to visit your faculties. I've seen, which is really great for me, that you have a lot of female students. So this, in terms of gender equality, maybe you don't have to struggle so hard here. But there are another things that maybe we can do better to improve or to increase this female visibility. Okay, so if we talk about agri-food context, you can see here you are in yellow that you have really a good percentage of female students, and I have seen that in this campus, girls or women are well represented. Okay, this is really different at our Universidad Politécnica de Catalunya. We have a lot of male students because basically we are teaching these two fields, engineering and ICT technologies. So as you can see in these fields, it is much more masculinized fields. Okay, so maybe here you don't have the problem or the issue of attracting girls to study these fields, but maybe you can introduce the gender equality as sustainable development goal in other topics. Okay, let's see how we can improve this goal. Okay, so I'm going to focus, as I told you, in gender in teaching. Okay, and before going on, as I told you before, I want to know which is a little bit your field of knowledge, which is your, I guess you are more or less everybody teachers, yeah? PhD students, researchers? More or less? Okay.
It covers, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, it can be everything together.
So for you, well, as usually happens when I go to give these talks, or when I go to a training of these topics, it's very common to have more women than men. So attending to these talks. Okay, why this happens? Because women maybe tend to go more to not very I don't know how to tell this, object oriented or focus topics, and in general the audience of this kind of trainings or of talks tends to be more female than male teachers or attendants. But as I put here, what means to you to teach with a gender perspective? Anyone?
All of will open the floor. You know, but for me, it's that question is a little bit different and maybe simple because I teach sociology.
Okay. Okay. So I'm going further. I will go deeper into the contents or the fields. But first of all, I want to just to think about these topics a little bit. As you told me, you are teaching or you are researching in different knowledges or different fields. And as I told previously, on average, at this faculty or at this university, you have a good percentage of female students. So this is not going to be the focus of the talk. But maybe we can think about if we perceive a different attitude among students based on gender. Do you think that at your lectures, girls and boys participate the same? Do you have different feelings about participation, about cooperation, about?
Do you mean?
I think here the difference is not so visible, but I can compare it from our teaching experience, very recent teaching experience in Senegal. And there, even if there were more girls in the classroom, which was surprising, any of these basically raised any questions, and only the boys were asking and were communicating, and the girls were basically not, and they are not used probably to speak and to express their opinions. So there it was really visible. Here I don't see much.
Maybe, yes, I agree. It may be impacted also cultural and national religion aspects.
Yeah.
It's very impacted.
So again, remember the first slide where I put the difference between sex and gender. And gender is more due to social, cultural aspects. But imagine at our lectures, at our classrooms, which more or less 70–80% are boys, so girls tend to be less confident to ask, and this is even worse if, in general, if the teacher is not a woman but it's a man, because maybe they don't feel so confident to ask to participate in the class. So here we have to be aware of this. Okay? And if we detect a different attitude among the students based on gender, try to think strategies to avoid this. Okay? Okay, and I will go after two. So if we think on our fields of knowledge, our subjects, do you think that our subjects, our fields of knowledge are gender neutral? Can you think on putting gender in something related to your subject that you're teaching or your field of research? Let's see that in most of cases, yes. So it's not that our subjects are gender neutral, it's that we probably don't know how to put the gender in our subjects. So let's see how all the subjects can be gender blind, in the sense that we can put gender or human being in some sense. So if we don't put this gender aspect, this will lead to the masculinization of the profession and academic culture of the discipline, and this can have some impact. For example, in the low proportion of female students in our case, in our engineering studies, the perpetuation of stereotypes, the low visibility of women in decision-making bodies, or that research is gender blind for the society. So here we have 5 topics where gender can be put visibly in each one of these topics. The first one is governance and decision makers. Okay, today the first meeting was with the dean of this faculty, which is a man. Okay, I don't know if you have previous deans which were women. Okay, well, casualty, I don't know. Okay, so this is one thing. Another thing is the recruitment, the progression, and the retention. Okay, can we do something to attract, to recruit female positions, or it's something that there's nothing to do? Another thing that we can think on putting the gender mainstreaming is the work and personal life integration, okay, which is something that I have to be grateful to Jana, because she was offering us, my colleague Amaya and me, if we were traveling with some children, or for having a place to take care of the children. Another thing is the research. Okay, research, apart from teaching, it's something where gender can be visibilized, and we are going to focus on the last aspect, or the last dimension, which is how gender can be present in teaching or in curriculum. How gender can be taken into account in teaching. We can take into account gender in each one of our subjects, so in specific subjects, but we can go or look for a transversal approach. And the way of doing this, putting or trying to make gender explicit, is from bottom to up. Okay, as we are going to see. Okay, this can be 4 pillars or 4 basic principles that can be considered in order to make or put gender explicit in each one of the subjects. We can think on the content. Maybe this is the first thing that we can think when we think on gender, and we are going to talk about how gender can be implemented in each one of these principles. In the content, we are going to see how gender competence can be introduced, how the utility is important, and for example, we can introduce in the content more female reference. Okay. With the methodology, we are going to talk about active methodologies. Talking about learning environment, we can promote the participation of female students. And talking about the assessment, we are going to talk about how do the assessment with a gender dimension. Okay, let's go into each one of these topics. Talking about methodology, we can promote active methodologies. What I mean with active methodologies. Any of you teach with an active methodology or can think about?
You mean as a sort of a co-creation or something like that, and active
Well,
when all the actors who participate, so like a transdisciplinary.
Active in the sense that it's not
The one-way frontal.
Yeah, monologue of the teacher. You can try to do some
Campfire.
PBL, problem-based learning, project-based learning, set-based learning, role plays, debates. Okay. So I try to promote the cooperation in the classroom. Okay? This is something that without any specific objective, but try to make explicit diversity and, in some sense, implement the gender equality in the class. Okay? Because all the students don't have the same capability or the same capacities of interaction, so you are promoting this different participation. Another thing is, as I told before, trying to look for female reference. In some fields, we maybe know a lot of male reference, but if we try to think in a woman which was famous in some agri-food sector, maybe it's more difficult. Okay, maybe it would be harder for us because we would have to work more as a teachers to look for this information. But it would be relevant or important for the students to have a woman as a reference. Okay. And this is something that, last point, that could lead to a harder work for the teachers. What I mean with example and exposed or action research is try to evaluate or assess which is the degree of implementation when we implement a change or a topic with a gender dimension in class. For example, try to do a test or a survey before the PBL or the active methodology or the presence of female reference and a survey after. Okay, to try to assess the implementation of this measure. Okay, this will show us if we are really making a difference or not in the sense of gender equality. Okay. Okay, this was about the content. What about the learning environment? Again, as I told you, maybe girls are not so confident to participate in class, to ask. So try to promote female students' participation. Okay, this doesn't mean to force a girl to answer our question, but maybe if a boy is the one, or boys are the ones who are just answering first, maybe we can try to make a group or ask, not directly, but try to relax the boy and try to make participate the rest of the people in the class. So promote this female student participation. Okay, I don't know if in our language you have this aspect of being gender sensitive with the language, but in Spanish we have, and in English there is not so problem if you use the plural, but if we are using the singular, we have to try to use both both genders. Okay,
We have even problem with using plural,
you have in plural as well.
in plural
Okay.
and singular as well.
Okay, so the same that in Spanish or Catalan. Okay, so we have globally, I mean, for example, in Spanish or in Catalan, we have the gender for professor, we have masculine and feminine, but we have a general word that includes everything. So if we try to think on this general word, we are avoiding the masculinization of the word. Okay, so maybe in your language it's the same. Okay.
May I have a question?
Yeah.
Because we've been also struggling with the legal documents, and based on lawyers, it's okay to use the generic masculinum,
Yeah.
and it's still legal, right? And how is it in your language?
Well, we have the same, no?
A lot of debates.
Yeah.
Because linguistic experts now that have, revealed against gender inclusive language and saying that this has no sense, that the masculine form is both masculine and feminine, that it's.
I think the last thing that I heard in Catalan or Spanish it was that in plural you can use the masculine and you are referring to both, but if you are talking or writing in singular, you have to use both. You want to refer to both, but this is a linguistic debate. Yeah.
Because like in Czech language, it's not only a case of like the nouns or pronouns, it's also about the verbs.
Oh yeah. Oh,
We distinguish verbs as a
masculine and
feminine.
feminine.
Yeah.
Okay, we don't have this
You don't.
different in Catalan or Spanish.
You will always have this discussion, I guess. Always.
Yeah. Okay. So the same when using images or visual resources. Okay, try to use the more egalitarian images or visual resources, which is not easy because if we are not always having in mind this and we just pick the first image or the first photo that we look for, it would be a man. Okay, so if you have this in mind, you will go deeper. And talking about an active methodology, which is teamwork, be aware of gender distribution in teamwork or roles. If you are just doing an activity in teamwork, maybe the roles in the teamwork would be the girl is going to be the secretary or the one who takes notes, and the boy maybe would be the leader or the one who is taking the voice. So try to have some rotatory roles in the teamwork. Okay. So talking about teamwork or some problem or project-based learning, here in this slide, we have different things that we have to take into account. First, the student distribution. If you just leave the students to be in teams as they want, probably you will find a group which is only formed with female students. Why? Because they try to put together for being more confident, more comfortable, okay? And boys maybe doesn't have this problem or this situation. Maybe instead of giving freedom for having the teams, you can select and do the teams yourself and just see what happens. Okay. I have put here some reference where you have some information. And the same that I was talking before about the rotative roles. Okay, if you are seeing that the same people is having the same roles in a team, maybe you can change it. Okay. About the assessment in the teamwork, we have to be aware that if we propose an activity which includes self-assessment or co-assessment, maybe the evaluation would be not fair, in the sense that not every person has the same confidence or thinks the same about the others in the team. So having this in mind can help you to, okay, if you are using co-assessment or self-assessment, maybe it would be a good thing to check which are the marks or the evaluation of the different members of the team that are put into one side or the other side. Okay. The topic is as well important. If you have to put a topic for the activity, the topic is important in the sense that for girls especially, maybe the topic would be more interesting if it's oriented or focused on some sustainable development goal. Okay? Try to be diverse in this sense. And I have put here this elevator sustainability because in some sense this would be hard for us to implement this type of gender dimension or active methodology. So we have to be aware that we are going to not to die in the effort. Okay, we have to maintain. Okay, this is something that we did some years ago in 2019 in our university. We did a pilot project taking into account the gender dimension, and in particular, we asked students about what were his or her reference. Okay, do they have reference, and if so, they were female reference or male reference. With reference, I mean people that they know in the field of their study. Okay, and this is what we found from this more than 500 students. We found that almost half of the students didn't have any reference, and among the ones that have reference, we found different reference depending on the gender. If the students were boys, then they have their reference that were coming from actual and from the same field of study. And if the students were male, the female reference were only the ones belonging from the personal circle or from the university. Okay, and for the female students, this was different. They have male reference belonging from the personal cycle, and the same, and the university as well, for female reference. So what does this tell us? That female reference, where are female reference?
Excuse me. I do not catch what it means, reference. So,
Yeah.
Can you repeat? Maybe I missed it.
Yeah, reference, I mean a person. It's not Marie Curie as a reference of chemistry, but a person that you know that have studied or have done the same profession that you are studying. Okay? So if you are studying ICT engineering, do you know a person, any person? It could be a known person or a relative or any person. Do you know a person who is studying or who is working on this field? Okay, so this was the question. Okay, and the answer was different depending on if students were boys or students were girls. So what does this tell us? That female reference are not known as international people. Okay, just female reference are just from the personal circle, okay, which is not something that happens with male reference. So this tells us that we need to show more female reference, okay, more women that is working on the field that we are teaching. Okay. Okay, and about the contents, how can we introduce the gender dimension in the contents? One thing that we found is that depending on the subject that we are teaching, we can divide the subjects in three different subjects. If we teach, for example, a fundamental subject, then we can focus on some things to introduce the gender dimension. If we think a technology subject, we will focus in another things. And the third group of subjects, if we teach a management subject, we'll focus in another kind of aspects. Okay, I'm going to each of one. What I call a fundamental subject. I don't know if there is any of you teaching any of these subjects, but I'm from the mathematics department, so my most of my subjects will be a fundamental subject, for example, calculus, algebra, physics, statistics. How can we introduce the gender dimension here? Because in some sense, these subjects are very abstract. Okay? Try to make focus on contextualization. Okay, what does it mean, contextualization? For example, if we are presenting a matrix in algebra, try to make sense which is the significance of these numbers in the matrix. A matrix is a set of numbers which can have some significance. Try to make this contextualization in a gender perspective. For example, these numbers in a matrix can represent the percentage of girls which select some kind of student of studies. Okay? Try to contextualize the problem. Here I just show some figures that you can find if you look for parabolic movement, and the typical figures that you will find. For example, a football player is a man. For parabolic movement, you can find also this gun, or which is a bit masculinized as well. And looking for friction force, the first figures that you will find would be a man, okay, struggling with a box, and maybe the 10th figure, there was a woman here, okay, good times, okay. Okay, this was about fundamental subjects. Some of you maybe are in this other kind of subjects, which is technology, for example, heat transfer, electrotechnics, etc. how can put gender explicit here? We can, apart from the contextualization, which I previously mentioned, we can introduce here some elements regarding safety, environment, ergonomics, SDGs, consumption paths, okay? And I put here some illustrations, which the first one are more standard, but maybe you will be more used than me for talking about heat transfer or energy. Maybe instead the typical figure, you can think on something not so gender blind, like this one, okay? Which is cooking or taking into account the energy to do some cooking here, okay? So not the typical example of energy or origins, which is this one, okay? And again, you can put the focus on an active methodology of service, for example. Okay, another type of subjects. Does any of you teach something related to management?
Yes, a little bit.
Yeah. Okay. Which kind of subjects would be here in this block? Any subject like projects, organization. Okay. My colleague Amaya is from the management department, so most of her subjects are here. Human resources. How can be gender implemented here in this kind of subjects? Apart from contextualization and the other focus, we can add here the gender in interpersonal relationships. Okay, we have human resources, for example. We have gender here. Recruitment, work-life balance. Okay, so in these kind of subjects, it would be easier to implement or to introduce genders as a whole. We have, for example, reports or data like this one, she figures, I think it's the last one, 221, where you can find statistics and indicators disaggregated by gender. Okay, you can use this data. And related to assessment, how can we introduce the gender dimension in the assessment of the subjects? If we are not assessing something, then the students forgot about it. Okay, what is not assessed for students, it's not important. Okay, if we are talking about gender in class, but we are not assessing this activity, the students will not pay attention to this. Okay, so always taking this into account. For example, which is the way we assess our students? What kind of exams are we offering to students? The same kind? I mean, all of the students don't have the same abilities, the same capabilities, so we have to take into account this diversity as well in the assessment. So not asking, for example, or not putting always multiple choice tests. Okay, these kind of exams will be easier for us to correct. Okay, but we are not offering the same opportunities to all the students in the classroom. So try to do the assessment of the diverse that we can. Okay, so mix open questions, okay, where we will have we'll offer the opportunity to students to express themselves. Try to mix open questions with multiple choice tests. There are some researches that show that in tests, in multiple choice tests, female students assess worse than male students. Why? This is something related to self-confidence. Maybe girls have not been exposed before to, well, maybe in their families, they have been more taking care, don't do this, okay, not being so brave, and maybe boys have been just the opposite. So this is something that can explain why this different assessment in this kind of exams. Okay, so try to make the assessment the most diverse that it is possible. Try to put questions that are contextualized, okay, for taking the attention or for having the different appreciations of all students. Talking about the types of assessment, try to do the assessment formative in the sense of giving feedback if possible. This is a bit difficult in a multiple choice test. And pros and cons, as I previously talked about the co and self-assessment. Okay, if we are giving this kind of assessment, be aware that not everybody is going to be fair in the co or self-assessment. If possible, and this is really difficult if you have a large group of students, but if possible, try to involve students in their assessment. When they want to be assessed, how they want to be assessed, why, okay, in terms if this is possible. And of course, we are human beings, and we have to be aware that maybe we have an unconscious bias from us, okay? For example, when I'm evaluating a kind of exams that the students take previously of entering the university, these exams are anonymous, and I don't know the people which I'm assessing. But if I have to correct the exams from my own group, maybe I will tend to, okay, I will read the name of the people, and then try to be conscious of this bias can happen. Okay, and all of these, the contents, the methodology, the assessment, the learning environment, in general, it will be described in the syllabus. Okay, we have the syllabus of each one of our subjects, and which is the way of implementing taking into account the gender dimension that we put in our subjects, the syllabus. Okay, we have to try to make explicit the social and human dimension of, and as I told before, all the subjects. It doesn't matter if it's a fundamental, a technological, or a management subject. All the subjects can be implemented with a gender dimension. Okay, and this implementation must be put into words in the syllabus. Okay, this is a training that a colleague from my university did with some different teachers or educators of different universities, and it was based on putting explicitly in the syllabus where the gender dimension activity was taken into account. Okay, it was a training for that lasted 5 weeks, and the educators went in with their syllabus and a basic way of putting the gender dimension in the syllabus was, first of all, taking into account the inclusive and non-sexist language of the syllabus. Taking into account as well the gender competencies, the bibliography. This is another thing that we can take into account with the gender dimension. Look at the bibliography and see if we are just introducing male authors or we have some female authors. If we are not, if we don't have just any woman in the reference, we can look for it. The classroom management, and again, as I told before, the assessment. Then the teachers were divided in the kind of subject, and they focus on minimum one activity to include the gender dimension. It can be in the content, in the learning environment, in the assessment, in any of the four activities. And then introduce this gender activity to make gender explicit in their syllabus. Okay, this is not something quick. I mean, from one day to another one, but it's something that we can think about in our own subject. Okay, and this is not something. Okay, I'm good with the time. This is not something that wants you to discourage you, but this is something that we have made a list of some resistances that educators or teachers can encounter in introducing this gender dimension in his or her topic. For example, resentment, okay, which is the action that we can implement if we have find some resentment. Maintain the focus, okay? Don't give up. Saying or thinking that our subject is gender blinded, okay? I'm not able to introduce any aspect with a gender dimension because in my subject there is not the opportunity to do this, okay? As I told, every subject has the opportunity to introduce some gender dimension, okay? So try to think a little bit more. The lack of consensus on students' participation. This is something that we can think about, that we are not going to have the consensus of all the students, and there's not a formula that is useful for everyone or for every classroom or for every subject, but we have to think about that the one-size-fits-all cannot be applied, okay? Something that maybe works for me is not working for your subject or for your kind of students, okay? Another thing that we can that can happen. How can I include gender contents in my STEM subject? Depending on the subject, we can think on a different formula. But for example, we can think that men or women finally would be users of this technology or of this product or something. So thinking on that woman or man would be users, we can introduce the gender dimension, maybe not thinking on just woman or man, but human being, users, okay? Another thing that can happen, or we can think about, is fear against students and their resistances. Okay, this is not something, as I told before, something from one day to another one, but this is a transformation, okay? So it's going to be something gradual, and maybe instead of thinking on gender, maybe it would be easier to think on human, on users again. Another point is difficulties in making gender explicit in the syllabus. Do not rush, okay? Think a little bit more. Lack of time, and this is something related to institutional recognition, okay? As I told before, I'm very used to go to these trainings, to these talks, and encounter more women than men, okay? Maybe we are not so object-oriented, and men are more focused, but this is something that institutions can help here. If institution is recognizing this work, is putting financial support, is giving some consideration to this work, this will help. And another point that I have written here is how to promote male enrollment in feminized studies. This is something that I was sharing with teachers from the social sciences side, and it is really an open question that deserves more research, because when I asked this question to these social sciences colleagues, what do you think that they told me? If they have a class, for example, psychology studies, if they have primary education, they have a class with a lot of female students, and when I ask them, how do you perceive this gender difference? How do male students behave in classroom? What do you think? They tell me.
You ask how do the male students behave in the classroom,
yes,
which is dominated by female students?
I asked the teacher, I asked the teachers about this last question. And what do you think? They answered.
Maybe are they not like more quiet because they are minority? Is it?
They answered me that as in these studies, teachers are as well more female teachers than male teachers. They female teachers were more taking care of male students because they were minority. Okay, so this is not something that happens in our field, I think. Okay, so this is something that maybe deserves, as I told, more research, because the lack of confidence that female students feel in a masculinized classroom is not the lack of confidence that male students feel in the opposite way. Okay, I'm going to some examples, more focused on your, probably your field of teaching. Here I present these examples are taken from a guide, which is a collection of guides that the University Network of Catalan universities did about some fields of study, and in this guide, this is agricultural engineering. This is in this moment is not translated to English. It's just in Catalan, but it's a guide where you can find it will be translated to English, and it's a guide where you can find ways of introducing the gender dimension in agricultural studies. Okay. Here we have an example based on mechanization, and here I put another 2 examples. And for example, a colleague of us that is working in this project, which is from the agricultural faculty, told us that when she was teaching, she has to do some practical sessions in a tractor, and she's a very little teacher. I mean, she doesn't weigh a lot, and she had problems to put the tractor on, because the tractor has some security. You will know better than me, but the tractor has some security mechanism that if you don't weigh enough, you will not be able to put it in. Okay, so she had to put with her some weights to be able to do this practice. Okay, this is crazy. So I was reading. Well, here we have another example. This case is about the water powers and masculinities in irrigation. So talking about reference, just found some female role models here in the agri-food field, but I'm sure you will know more than me in this kind of reference. And here I found a journal which is based on agricultural, and it was funny for me because I read that in this journal they have an award that was which company have the more female-friendly tractor. And I'm sure that you know more companies than me of tractors, but they have 2 winners. One was New Holland, and the other one was Kent, I think. And they won this award because the cabin of the tractor was more spacious, and they have place for children, basically. Okay, so this is something that, yeah, most of machinery or most of things are made for men, and maybe they are not thinking of all human necessities or human needs. Okay. Okay. And now I move to the institutional transformation. What can we do as a university? Okay. I'm going to talk about these 4 points. First of all, about the regulations we have in our country. We have some laws on education, and especially higher education, that include equality principles, gender dimension in teaching and research, and transversal gender competencies. But the real level of inclusion of gender perspective is low. There is even a lot that can be done. But this regulation, which was introduced in 2018, was a very important regulation for the gender perspective. We have an agency, which is the Catalan University Quality Assurance Agency, which introduced 6 years ago, this general framework for incorporating the gender perspective in higher education teaching. Okay, this is something that must be applied in all degree programs at Catalan universities and in the accreditation of the programs. Okay, I'm not going to read everything, but for example, you can see that which was introduced was, for example, the use of inclusive language and non-sexist language. And if we go to the field of your studies, agriculture, forestry, and fishing, For example, the basic principles that this regulation wrote was this one. For example, the students understand the role of women in service companies as service providers and as customers. They recognize the links between products and traditional division of unpaid work. Okay, the first slide, with domestic work still being socially assigned to women. Okay, and these guys that I'm showing here are the guys that I told you before, that all of them are not right now translated to English, but this one was 2 years ago and is expected to be translated to English. This one is about agricultural engineering. And another competence, another regulation that that helped us achieve at our university is this one from 2020 that introduced the gender competence. What was this regulation taught? Knowing and understanding from the field of the degree itself inequalities due to a reason of sex and gender in society, and integrate different needs and preferences for reason of sex and gender in designing solutions and solving problems. Okay, this is something that we have to take into account in all the subjects or in all the programs of our university. Okay, and talking about the institution or the university, how can gender be introduced? I have written here some issues or some points to introduce gender. For example, and this is a point with this project I hope would help, the gender equality plan must have an evolved action of gender in teaching and of gender in research as well. Available resources and guidelines, for example, websites, guidelines, as the one I previously showed you. Introduce gender in final degree projects, for example, and give some award for this gender dimension. For example, introducing gender-specific subjects. I think Jana is offering an elective subject on gender. As well, if it's possible, introduce mandatory subjects introducing gender aspects. A devoted vice-rectorate. At our university, we have this vice-rectorate for gender equality and social commitment from 2019. So this is something that institutionally will help. Create equality unit, equality committee, gender experts in each faculty and if possible in each department. Gender-specific competence, that's the one that was approved at our university. Create, for example, the Teaching Innovation Day with an aspect in gender dimension. Promote teaching innovation projects. If you have at your university teaching innovation projects, try to promote one or some funding which is specifically for projects with gender dimension. Okay, this will help people to concentrate on this issue. Promote training for education with a gender dimension, as this one, and recognition of the gender implication in the assessment of excellence. Okay, the same that with the students. If it's not assessed, it will not be important. So for educators, it's the same. If we are not assessing the gender aspects, people would not be aware of this. Okay, this is something that was introduced at our university last year. which is introducing the gender equality or the gender assessment in final bachelor and master degree projects. Okay, the same that economical, environmental, and social aspects. There is some topic that must take into account the gender equality or the gender dimension in the final projects. Okay, and we have a guideline for doing this, for students doing this. You can, students can implement the gender equality in their project, taking into account the language, the images, taking into account the gender distribution in teamworks. If they have been working in a company, for example, which is the distribution of gender in the company, taking into account the methodology, if gender or sex has been a variable of the study, or for example, taking into account their results, if they have impact or potential biases on the users of this technology. Okay, regarding the staff, for example, this was another pilot project that we participated at university, and there were more or less 40 teachers involved in this project, and this was a project that lasted more or less one semester, and teachers participating in this project were at the end of the project, the leader project were able to write a guide which gives to teachers some guidelines to introduce gender dimension in the STEM teaching. Okay, this, well, I have here the slides of the guide, but basically it divides the gender dimension implementation in 4 levels: the elementary level or the fundamental level, easy to apply actions, second level. Level 2, more advanced actions to implement the gender dimension, and the last level, actions with expertise. And we have here the objectives of each one of the levels. And for example, some actions that can be implemented in the most basic level. Do active learning, as I told you before. Take care of one's own response to student contribution. Use inclusive non-sexist language. Next level, for example, some action of the next level. For example, in the teaching material, make sure that the context of the examples and exercise covers various topics. As far as possible, include the statements with social and or gender relevance. Okay, contextualize. Okay, I was saying before, these are more actions of this level. For the following level, for example, this is something added: incorporate the variables gender and sex in the analysis. For example, in the statistical analysis, solution design, human resources. Okay, we are talking about another level because we are using these words. Okay, it's something that we can think, but when we make it explicitly, this is something more advanced. For the more advanced level, for example, in the case study, analyze a case where the woman plays a relevant role, for example, a leading engineer, and remark the relevance of the activity. Okay, if we just don't think about this gender aspect, maybe the leading engineer will be a boy, not a girl. Okay? Here you have more actions for the more advanced level. As I was telling you before, discuss or assess with a pre-test and post-test the impact of this activity. Okay. And as final remarks, here you have some conclusions. First one, the agri-food context is still male-dominated, maybe not in the presence of students in class, but in the afterwards. Okay, who is learning more money, who is devoted to what? Okay, so actions are required or can be implemented. Gender dimension can be included. I hope that you, when you exit the room in all the subjects, okay, with this idea, think on your own subject and think about how can you implement gender dimension in your subject. I'm sure in something. Okay. Think on the 4 pillars I show you. Guides, you have guides and tools available. Okay, I'm sure you will have this presentation, but if you have some doubts, you can write us if you want. Of course, resistances will appear. Okay, but this is something that has to be sustained with the institutional support. Okay, and I hope here you will have this support. And this is something that can help. Teaching innovation projects must be promoted by the institution to reach a natural and bottom-up transformation. Okay, if there is not an institutional support, for example, in this sense, this is something that is going to be more difficult. And to finish, I give you here some recommended readings, and these ones are the ones that are appearing in the UPC guide that I showed you before. Okay, that's all. Thank you very much. Thank you. If you have some questions or doubts, please
Comments, yeah, or your experience.
Yeah.
Yeah, so maybe I will add one more from
Yeah.
because I was like, for this year, I was for the first time teaching the whole course in Senegal, and it was course focused on animal behavior. And only when I was translating it into French and adapting, and then I realized, for the first time, even if I'm teaching it many years, that all examples of all scientists which are there in my whole course are only white men and no one else.
Okay.
And it was like, oh, really? And it was after so many times, and all obviously from Europe or North America. So I started to search for some. At least I edit few slides with some female researchers. But it was really. I see that's possible really to edit almost everywhere.
Yeah.
But if you still keep going with the same materials, you can be really surprised how biased this approach is. Really,
Yeah, of course. If this is something that I've learned with background and all the years of lecturing, but the more you know, it's the more you can implement to your subject. Because I've been